Yeah, so in the inaugural episode of the Arkansanity podcast, I guess it's because he lives in Arkansas.
Arkansanity.
Think of a better name. I mean, the content obviously not the best.
Well,
judging by
you think he's getting to
Hey,
an
we're
episode
talking
2?
about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do an episode 2, but where do you go from the Jews are greedy on episode 1? And that's what he said, not my words. Please do not clip that and use that and go, the guy with the beard said the Jews are greedy.
It's all uphill from him from that point on.
Mitchell referred to Adolf Hitler in the inaugural episode of the podcast as a good guy based on his own research. He also questioned the feasibility of the Holocaust at one point. According to The Guardian, he said, when you realize there's no possible way that they could have burned and cremated 6 million bodies, you're going to realize the Holocaust ain't real. He then also claimed that, and I quote, greedy Jews, end of quote, were destroying this country and turning them all into gays, perpetuating harmful stereotypes and conspiracy theories. That, again, according to The Guardian. Here's a clip of Bryce Mitchell on the brand new Arkansanity podcast, episode number 1. Here's the clip from that.
Okay. Here we go.
Hitler, hell and the Nazis. I really don't think that he was, because I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research, not my public education indoctrination. I really do think before Hitler got on meth, he was a guy to go fishing.
Before he got on meth.
He fought for his country. He wanted to purify it by kicking the greedy Jews out that were destroying his country and turning them all into gays. They were gaying out the kids. They were queering out the women. They were queering out the dudes. They were, you know what her first tranny surgery ever was? Happened to be in Germany before Hitler took over. You know the books that everybody makes fun of Hitler burning? You know what the books was? Queer books.
Queer books.
Hitler burned queer books because Hitler didn't want a bunch of queers destroying his nation. They can't produce children.
But what about...
So that second part, there is some accuracy to the second part.
This is where Brandon will defend. Okay, go ahead.
Wait, no, tell me. No, but tell me, because I want to know.
No, just the Weimar Republic. Like, Connor knows about this too. Like, that's like the biggest debaucherous thing that ever happened. So, I mean, the argument is that like a lot of literature and theater and stuff was like promoted by, I guess what they would say Jews at the time.
I can tell you exactly what he's referring to in that latter half.
Yeah, you take the reins.
Yeah, and I'll address this up front. His whole thing about Hitler was a good guy who was just trying to purify his country. That's not what I'm talking about here.
Right.
What I am saying is that Europe's first transgender clinic was created by a gay Jewish guy named Magnus Hirschfeld prior to World War II.
Mm-hmm.
The first act of property destruction the Nazis ever committed was burning down that clinic. When they used to have their book burning rallies, they were burning Magnus Hirschfeld's medical texts on how to perform transgender operations. Then they started throwing in other, like he said, queer literature, and gay pornography was also some of the stuff
and
they were burning.
Prostitution stuff too.
I did a segment months and months ago on Germany decriminalizing child porn a while back. And I walked everybody through the history of the Weimar Republic, and I read an excerpt from a travel guide that a guy wrote about all the countries of Europe at that point, where he's talking about Germany in the section. He talks about how you can buy a child prostitute on every street corner, how the nightclubs are beds of bestiality, gay orgies, and every other kind of degenerate behavior imaginable. So Bryce Mitchell is not incorrect when he talks about why the Weimar Republic was so terrible and what the Nazis were pushing against. And this is why when you take a very shallow view of history, which tells you, oh, the Nazis were evil, and then one day, for no reason at all, everybody just rose up and started killing the Jews. Doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand what they were pushing against. Now, how you get from let's stop performing transgender operations and having child prostitutes to now Jews, gypsies, and disabled people should be in camps.
Yeah.
You kind of clearly can't follow that logic, and everyone would agree that that was a bad thing.
Yeah, two things could be true at the same time. Like, you could say that Hitler, had a mass genocide and was bad, but you could also say that there's like a lot of filthy, disgusting stuff happened in the Weimar Republic that just like happened to be caused by a few select Jewish people, not all of them, but like those two things could exist at the same time.
How many people died in the Holocaust?
Like a couple mil.
How many?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
How would you know
they
the actual
changed the number a lot. I don't
I'm
know.
just asking.
Yeah,
No,
It seems to be like conflicting reports.
Yeah, they changed the number a lot.
Who's they?
Do they?
The people
Yes,
that
you hear
write
the 6
history.
million.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's pretty
You
consistent.
hear the
in
6
history
million
books.
Jews.
Yeah, that's what I always hear.
Like 4 million others to get up to around 10. And I'm not going to.
I'm sorry. I
I'm
thought
not
the
going
6
to-
million was all encompassing. So it was
6
the
million
gypsies
is 6
and the
million
gays
is
and everything.
Jews, and then I think it's about 4 million others, according to official counts. Part of why there's questions is because for many years they have constantly revised the death numbers to where they no longer add up to 6 million, but the 6 million doesn't change.
The Russians did a lot of it too.
Yeah, and he includes
and
that whole
pretended to be
thing
them.
about
The Russians dressed up as Germans and killed
Mm-hmm.
off a lot of Jews too.
Yeah, and Bryce does
So
that
they
whole
were
thing about the
cosplaying as Nazis?
Yeah.
Okay.
the logistics of burning the bodies is another thing people bring up.
Please
but-
don't think that I'm mocking. I'm actually trying
No,
to be
you're-
educated because I know both of you guys
Yeah.
are very well versed in these
I'm just
specific
topics.
topics.
I'm just curious about how it all played out because we get like a really simplified version of it. So yeah, I just genuinely am curious about what exactly happened.
Can we all agree Hitler bad guy before
Yeah,
and
yeah.
after the meth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea where he got the meth thing from.
Well,
but-
have you ever seen? I've seen the videos of him shaking at like the Olympics where he's rocking back and forth and like he's
Oh
on
yeah,
meth.
I have seen one.
All right, what video are you gonna play?
Well, I have Dana White's response. What does that say?
okay, wait, hold on.
20? 30?
So-
It started at 20.
Between 30 and 35 million.
because it 6 million Jewish victims, and then the internet was saying 5 million non-Jewish victims. But if you think about all the deaths because of the war, the civilian deaths, that number is actually 30 to 35 million.
Yeah.
According
Okay, but
to
those
the
weren't
Illinois
Holocaust.
Yeah.
Those aren't Holocaust.
Yeah, not
deaths.
Holocaust. But I mean, you guys, yeah, Hitler, bad guy. Period. Bryce is listening to too many Andrew Tates and whoever the hell is trying to say. I don't know who.
I don't think Andrew Tate's saying
No.
even Nick Fuentes. I mean, he'll say things like that, but he is, I think, a little bit more cognizant of how he comes off. Sometimes I think that, yeah. I mean, sometimes he doesn't care.
But
I
that-
think
but
that
yeah, I
this-
mean, he's listening to podcasters. He's not actually listening to he needs to do some research. But Rob, what is this one?
So this is Dana White. Dana White responds to Bryce Mitchell's comments regarding Hitler and the Holocaust. A lot of people calling for Dana White to either suspend or fire Bryce Mitchell. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, here's Dana White discussing the actual content of the podcast and his reaction to it.
Let me get some fucking dumb shit out of the way first here. I'm out here have fun doing Power Slap tonight. And I'm sure you guys heard what Bryce Mitchell said. If you haven't, he said some I've heard a lot of dumb, ignorant shit in my day, but this one's probably the worst. When you talk about Hitler, he was responsible for the death of 6 million Jews, and he tried to completely eliminate a race of people. World War II was the deadliest war in history. 15 million military deaths, 45 million civilians, and 25 million soldiers were killed in World War II. Second of all, Hitler was one of the most disgusting and evil human beings to ever walk the face of the earth. And anyone that even tries to take an opposing position is a moron. That's the problem with the internet and social media. You provide a platform for a lot of dumb, ignorant people. We've obviously reached out to Bryce, and when we read what he said and let him know how we feel about it, we're beyond disgusted. So for those of you that don't know what's going on, good, you're lucky. For those of you that do, that's what I have to say about it.
Hey, Rob.
I like the way that sorry, go ahead.
Who owns the UFC?
Who owns the Zuffa?
I know where you're going with this.
No, who?
I know where you're going. First of all, before we get to that, I just want to say what a badass way to start off a press
Let's
conference.
get the dumb shit
Let's
out
get
of
this
the way.
fucking shit on the road. To your question, I believe it's Ari Emanuel, who is one of the owners of the UFC.
Is he?
that
Endeavor.
Endeavor.
What's his religion?
Wait, Ari Emanuel?
Yeah.
The guy that
I
the
believe
government
Ari
Ari
Emanuel
Emanuel?
is Jewish. Is that
different guy.
correct?
Oh, okay.
Is that Rahm Emanuel's
Rahm
brother?
Emanuel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they bought
I didn't know.
they bought UFC and WWE.
Yes, the same guy that is known for the phrase "never let a good crisis go to waste." Rahm Emanuel, his brother Ari Emanuel, is the owner of Endeavor. He's one of the biggest agents in all of Hollywood.
Oh, interesting.
Rob begins to notice.
I'm not noticing anything. I'm just stating this guy's resume.
He's based off Ari Gold and Entourage, I believe, right?
Rob, do you guys think that he's gonna fire him? He won't be able to fight in the UFC because of this?
Well,
or does he have to do an apology tour, go kiss the wall, and then come back?
I'm curious what if this response correlates at all with the ownership.
So we do have one more clip of what and how Dana White's going to handle, but the repercussions for Bryce Mitchell. But for you guys, do you guys think that there should be any type of consequences that the UFC hands down? Before we play the clip, I'd like your opinions.
What do you think, Connor?
I mean, it's an institutional thing. So if their standard is we believe this and we think that was a bridge too far, what you said. If they want to say you can't fight in the league anymore, then that's not a violation of free speech because they're not the government. They can do whatever they want if they don't want their image tied to Bryce Mitchell anymore. This is far from the first controversial thing he said. It is certainly the first pro-Hitler thing he's openly said into a microphone. If you guys remember, he was on PBD podcast. What was that, early last year?
Yeah.
That was a very interesting one where we were sitting there like, is this guy like unfathomably based and just somewhat inarticulate, or is he actually just a moron?
It was one of the
very
only-
hard to tell. Like,
It was one of the only times where we asked if we need to cut things out
Yeah.
because of things that he said.
there was a demon in my girlfriend and she was smashing the potato plants.
I cut up the short for that, and I remember it so vividly because I needed to take like that 3-minute story and condense it down to a minute. And yeah, this guy quite genuinely believed that his girlfriend was demon possessed, murdering his plants, when probably more than likely it was like the drugs or like a bad case of psychosis or something like that. So I don't know if he can really believe that his girlfriend was possessed by a demon in the manner in which he told that story, then they probably already knew the type of person that they were dealing with. But again, very big jump from girlfriend is possessed to pro-Hitler.
And that's the thing. I'll go to Vinny in just a second.
No,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
he's the guy who gets punched in the head for a living, so don't look for like great philosophical truths out of him. But if the government was trying to say, okay, we send him to jail for that, then that would, of course, be a violation of free speech, and that is wrong. But if the UFC no longer wants to associate with a guy who says Hitler was a good guy who was trying to purify his country from the Jews making everybody gay, it's understandable.
But
I
also not the
suppose.
first person to make controversial
Yeah.
statements at the UFC. And Dana White has been an outspoken proponent of free speech and has said that he won't punish his fighters for anything that they say. Now, what they do, that's a different story. A guy beats up a gal, gets arrested. That's a different story. But what is the harm here? The people that watch the UFC are watching two guys get in a cage and beat the living shit out of one
Hopefully
another.
to kill.
Yes,
And
until one
yeah.
person passes out or taps out. So for them to take the moral high ground and go, well, listen, yes, we engage in the most brutal of contact sports, but words are hurtful. That seems kind of hypocritical. For me, I go, you can't ban. Like, if Bryce Mitchell worked here and he got on the podcast and started advocating pro-Hitler stuff, I'd go, okay, we have to have a conversation with Bryce, but we're a media company. We're not barbarians. That sport, whether you like it or not, is a barbaric sport. It's fun to watch. I love it. I'm not judging the people that watch it. But for the company now to take the moral high ground and be like, you can't say that. It seems very conflicting on all of their previous stances towards censorship and free speach.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you as well. Amy, you as well. Brandon, I know where you're at. Where
am I at?
But no, I mean, I get the free speech thing. I don't know the contract. I'm pretty sure the contract that they would have, UFC, stipulates that type of stuff. Here, we have contracts here where it's like, you can't badmouth your company. You can't do this. The free speech thing, on the other hand, because by the way, I didn't know he's saying Hitler was a good dude. You guys caught it, right? Before he started taking meth. That's what he was saying. And again, I'm not agreeing. I think Hitler was a freaking psychomaniac, murderous. And the drugs obviously didn't help at all. But I mean, this is a very, very thin line. Like, he's talking stupid and reckless contractually for the image of the UFC. If it's going to hurt the image of the UFC, and you nailed it, Connor, he's not working. This isn't a government employee. I think Dana and them have the they have the power to say yay or nay. He's probably going to have to come out and do an apology. But remember, at the end of the day, what did tickets sell? Dana even said, when a fighter comes out, do you want somebody to love him, hate him, or do you want somebody that nobody has any idea who this freaking guy is? Bryce now, with this type of comment, you don't think he's going to sell tickets?
A shit ton. People are going to want to see him get his face bashed in, and then there's going to be other people who actually support what he says and want to buy tickets just to support him.
Do they have any Jewish UFC
I was just going to ask the same thing.
What's that?
Do they have any like super jacked UFC fighters?
Jew fighters.
Yeah.
Like put him in a cage with a Jewish guy and see what happens.
Like Avi Berkowitz is going to come out and beat the shit out of Bryce.
I think from the confused look on all of their faces, there's probably not any successful Jewish.
No, they're not fighting in it. They own the damn thing.
Yeah.
I think I was just gonna say I feel like they definitely had to come out and say this though, especially since we're entering like this era of free speech now, and liberals, Democrats are very worried about how conservatives are going to wield this like newfound power that we have. And when you guys think back, like just a couple of months ago, Candace was being called anti-Semitic for saying Christ is king. Like people quite literally made videos about her saying, oh no, there's an underlying meaning. She's actually being anti-Semitic. And some people believed it, and some people wanted to cancel her for it. So, I mean, if she's going to face that type of scrutiny, then I think at least somebody who's going to come out and say pro-Hitler rhetoric, you know, we have kind of a duty on the left to at least come out and disavow that. On the right, sorry, to come out and disavow that. So
we didn't get to play Dana's response, but Dana's response, if you want to just play real quick the first seconds of it, Kelly, I believe he addresses, they ask him, would he punish Bryce Mitchell for his comments, and Dana was pretty clear that he wouldn't. It's all right. We don't have to play it. It's fine. Let's move on to Amy. But he said if you disagree with what he said, that's a great thing about the UFC. In fact, here I have the quote right here. It's free speech. That's a beautiful thing about this business. For all of you who hate Bryce Mitchell, you'll get to see him hopefully get his ass kicked. So even then, Bryce Mitchell selling tickets for the UFC, and Dana is kind of using this as an opportunity to market the fight. So
it shows you the power of this, though, that like the most free speech place in the world, like there's even limits with that, and like this is like the ultimate thing that you kind of can't touch if you are trying to be controversial.
You cannot talk about the Austrian painter. And even the most pro-free speech people are going to have a problem with it. But this, again, is kind of the problem of when everything is Nazism, when everyone is Hitler, then nobody is. If Elon sending his heart out to you is a Nazi salute, then
maybe the best solution of all those, like for everybody collectively to do like a deep dive on this and get everything, like all the questions sorted out, so that like nothing's speculation or controversy. We could just get it all out on the table.
It does seem like in this age of information that we find ourselves in, or age of disinformation, depending how you look at it, we have more access to more technology than ever. For these things that have happened over 80 years ago, 90 years ago now, to still be debated today seems silly. There should be some way for us to actually get to the bottom of it and the truth of it, and actually have the exact numbers of how many people were murdered, how many people were Jewish that were killed, as opposed to gypsies and gays and all of that.
And like, what was the motivations for everything? Like, you know, like why is it such a hitting a nerve when you just ask a question, like approach the topic? It's like, oh no, don't touch that. Like you can't talk about that. So like, why can't we analyze it?
I think because sometimes people perceive, and we'll wrap because I know it's Amy's segment now, but I think people perceive when you ask questions about sensitive topics, they perceive that you already have an idea in mind as to what the answer may be. You may not. Like, honestly, I ask questions from a place of stupidity.
Yeah.
I'm a dumb person. The only difference between me and Bryce Mitchell is that I'm not pro-Hitler and he seems to be. But we're both basically on the same wavelength. You guys are more well-read. You guys have studied history, and I respect that. For you guys to have those questions is different from me having an innocent dumbass question and you having a well-informed question. So I think it's the way the question is asked, the motivation, and who's the person that asks.
But see, Rob, I disagree. I don't think it's coming from a dumb whatever. You're inquisitive. You want, because Rob, there's so much information out there. I just want to know like the facts. And the fact is, when you ask certain questions, I get where you're coming from. They have a conceived notion of, no. I'm questioning your narrative, the 9/11 narrative, Vietnam narrative, JFK narrative, Russia collusion narrative, October 7th. We still don't know what happened and how
but that's the other one you can't question.
Trust me.
Those are the two.
Exactly, but I'll question the shit out of it because John Kirby, that scumbag who's gone now, Remember, 2 weeks later, they were like, how the hell did this day happen with the most secure piece of land on the entire planet, more secure than here? You know what he said? Now's not the time. Now's not the time.
Yeah,
It's
how
been
about now,
over here.
John?
When is the time?
Well,
Because-
that's the 100 million shekel question, Vincent.
yeah. Well, guess what? So don't play, like, listen, I think Bryce, his comments are freaking ignorant, and whatever, his fate is going to lie in the owners and Dana, but not to be able to question and stop people means you know that there's something there, okay? When you tell people to shut up and move on, there's something there.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me 9/11, October 7th, Vietnam, JFK, the Gulf of Tonkin, and say all this shit. Don't ask questions. No, I'll be damned to hell if I'm not being able to ask. But anyway, moving on. So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.